first thing is we have to understand something of what Krishna consciousness is ourself. Is it A, an armchair philosophy? B, is it Hinduism? C, is it Krishna's instructions? Or D, is it what we learn in Parampara? Or is it or is it E, C and D together? Which is it? Which is it? Which? E. Yes, C and D together. It's what we learn of Krishna's teachings and what comes in Parampara. So of course, to give some Krishna consciousness, we should have to have it ourselves. And the best giver of it is someone like Krishna says in the 4th chapter. How late shall I speak to?
45 minutes, Maharaj.
Okay, not till like midnight or something. So he says, Tat vidi pani prashnena pari prashnena sevaya upadekshanti te kyanam. So you know the last ones? Gnadiyas tattva darshana. Good. You know this one. This is an important one because Krishna is saying that someone should approach a spiritual master who's seen the truth, inquire submissively from him, and render service to him. So, but Krishna also says, Evam parampara praptami mam rajarishi vidu. So this means that we approach someone in the disciplic succession. So do we A, approach someone in disciplic succession, B, we follow the Tattva Darshan, C, both A and B, or D, none of the above? Which is it? Both, right? Because otherwise someone could say, yes, I'm a realized person. It's like this one girl, Christy, was going to start her own religion. You know what she would call it? Christianity. Christianity, but Christianity, right? So sometimes people try to start their own religions. So we need to understand something about the absolute truth. And that's why knowing something of Bhagavad Gita, the Vedas can be very vast. Especially like our Srimad Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses. On the Brahmaloka, it's 1 billion verses. But of course they live for 311 trillion years, so they have more time to read, don't they? Life must be. Anyone been there recently? Not that you can remember? Do you want to go there? Is that the aspiration of what we're trying to do? Go to the higher material planets? Don't some people do sacrifices and go to higher material planets? Or is that what we teach people? No. So, we have to understand a little bit of Krishna consciousness ourselves. And the good part of giving Krishna consciousness to others is, even if we know just a little, we can still give something to people. Say we're at a temple. We can point to where the deities are. We can show them what the Hare Krishna mantra is and just be their friend. And we can also turn them over to people who've been around longer. Did anybody here do the book marathon? Who did a book marathon? This is a good way to bring Krishna consciousness, because anybody here memorize the whole Bhagavad Gita? Does anybody have it written down somewhere? It is right here, right? So, this is Prabhupada in Laguna Beach, my hometown, when he came in 75. So giving books is a good way to people, because one thing about the book is it comes in Parampara, and it is the knowledge of Krishna directly, and the purports are given by someone who's a Tattva Darshan Prabhupada. And in Mumbai in 1971, I used to put away, I would bring Prabhupada's plate to him, and Jamuna would make a big Maha plate for the deities, and then transfer it to Prabhupada's plate, big, huge plate. And I'd take that into him, and I would put away the Sanskrit volumes he had of commentaries by Jiva Goswami, Sridhar Swami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and his own spiritual master, Srila Bhakti would serve him his prasadam, and then I would serve other devotees their prasadam along with the help of another devotee. Then I'd go back and get Prabhupada's plate. I'd clean it all off, and I'd wash that plate. And what Prabhupada left over was my prasadam for several months, because Prabhupada stayed in Mumbai a long time translating and trying to get things started there. We did programs all the time and tried to find somebody, and then eventually they found Juhu. And amazingly enough, I was just watching the videos. They just opened the huge temple in New Mumbai. And Narendra Modi came and spoke there all about Krishna consciousness. When it was on the national TV, he really spoke it well, and without any notes. He just spoke about Krishna consciousness and Lord Chaitanya. It was amazing. This is the ruler of the country, right? He was filling the people's minds with Krishna consciousness. Most of the rulers are trying to fill their pockets with OPM, right? What OPM is other people's money, right? So, he said when we advance materially, we also have to advance spiritually. So that's why when we're making roads, we make sure that roads are made to all the holy places so people can go there. So he was making a good point of it. So this again is the idea that we have to have something of Krishna consciousness before we give it. And in dealing with people, Prabhupada used to say the same. We go in like a needle and come out like a plow. Prabhupada used to say, come and just watch what we do. It's a long road from the beginning of Karma Yoga to the end of Bhakti Yoga. But you want people to do it voluntarily. It's like they say in India, parents who are very strict with the children. If they go to America, they do all kinds of nonsense. Intoxication, sex, all of it. But the parents who just try to set a good example, more than trying to be strict on their children want to become devotees then. And that's a much better way, especially in the West. You're supposed to discipline children when they're young and then gradually become their friend. Some parents let them run around crazy like a child, and then when they get 16, they try to super discipline them, and it doesn't work well. All of a sudden, they're almost ready to leave home, and you're trying to super discipline them. So, going in like the needle, you start with something simple. The same thing with books. People like Vaisheshika does things like, have you heard of stress? He doesn't say like, and the same thing at a temple, we want to let people know that they're welcome to come and watch or take as much part. Because especially we get the fallout with dealing with other religions. If you go to some churches, they look at you funny, like, what are you doing here? You're an outsider. You don't belong here. Other churches will talk to you, like in the foyer, the front part of the temple, for 5 minutes, and then say, okay, now you want to join this church? And a person thinks, well, can I read a book first? Or can I watch a service? Now, if they talk to you for 5 minutes, and they're the only one you've ever talked to, and they expect you to join the church, who did they actually expect you to have faith in? Who? Them, yeah, because you don't know anything else, right? If I say there's a service going on in the next room and I want you to join that temple, you go, what goes on in there? Well, you should just have faith in me. Now, they don't really say that, but that's actually what they're expecting, because you haven't studied anything outside of them. And so they're expecting you to have faith in them. So what we do is try to interject a little. It's like one devotee on books, he says that he asks people, do you know the difference between pleasure and happiness? And if you'd like to find out, we have books that explain it. Because pleasure, you just want some sensation now, regardless of the price. This is like Krishna talks about the kinds of happiness. In the mode of goodness, you might be willing to do some austerity and get pleasure later, but the happiness in the mode of passion, you experience sense pleasure now, but later on it becomes like poison. And the mode of ignorance, it's just misery from the beginning to the end. So he gives them a simple saying, like the difference between pleasure and real happiness. Something for someone to think about. And in some of the places, besides Namatas, we do a Bhakti Vriksha, which is a small group. It only gets up to 15 people. And what's good there is that the leader trains a servant leader, so that when it comes time to split the group in half, that one of the people is prepared to lead a new group. That's one of the problems in this country, is people weren't educated. They didn't provide much schooling for the Africans and Indians. And then all of a sudden the whites give the control to the other people and blame them for not being educated. But in many places school wasn't not provided and not allowed, correct? You can't not allow them and then wonder why they didn't do it. Isn't it true? So this is one of the advantages of that Namahata, is that everybody can speak a little bit. Because otherwise, if someone's never spoken knowledge before, it's a lot harder to go from never even speaking a few lines to speaking a whole long speech. So when you're in the Bhakti Vriksha group, somebody will read a verse or talk about a concept, and everybody shares for a few minutes of what it means to them. And this is something people should be prepared for. Like if you're in a class and somebody asks you, can you make a comment on this? You should be able to say something. Because when it comes time to influencing other people, you need to be able to say something. And a lot of it goes by the attitude. They even say in sales that 80% of it's working on yourself. A person who is confident and self-assured, that's actually even more important than a huge amount of product knowledge. This toaster here heats up to 200 degrees centigrade, and it comes in 18 different colors, and it has an 8-foot cord, and it runs on the principle of hydrothermic electricity. You say, yes, but does it toast? So, you have to be able to explain the basic to people. Someone may know all of the things about it, how to build a toaster. It's like my father used to say, when people ask you the time of day, you don't tell them how to build a clock. When someone says, what's this chanting about? Well, I'll explain to you the 10 purposes of Bhagavatam. You give somebody something simple, and they need the time of day, you don't tell them how to build a clock. You give them something simple to start with. And one of the things that they say in the Bhakti Vrikshas, the Jayapataka said, that people want to know how much you care before they care how much you know. So if you go in like a needle, out like a plow, you tell people, like say you're doing a Harinama, do you tell people, here's one of our cards? Do you tell them that? What you should say is, because sometimes people wonder, am I allowed at that temple? They don't really know. Or sometimes you say, like if someone lights up a cigarette or comes in with shoes on, you don't say, you're not allowed to wear shoes. Say, I'm sorry, shoes are not allowed. This is called the objective case. It's the shoes that are not allowed. It's not the person. And it's the cigarette. So you say, I'm sorry, shoes are not allowed in this room. Cigarettes are not allowed in this room. You use the objective case. But when you want someone to come, you use the nominative case. Meaning like, I'm saying, I'm inviting everybody. I would like to invite you to come Sunday to the temple. I'm giving a talk this Sunday, and I'd like to invite you also personally to come, and you, 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 right? Each one personally, not, oh yeah, everybody comes. Let people feel like they were special. They're all special, they're just not the only one, right? Don't tell that to your wife, right? Certain things you can say when you're telling people to come, like if you met some young girl, say, oh, we really want you to come to the temple. And you would say to her, don't worry, you're special, but you're not the only one. I invite everyone. So sometimes you may want to say, otherwise, why is he inviting me there, right? Right? So like the guy invites the girl to a party. Where's everyone else? Oh, it's just you and me, right? So in that case, it's, whereas you do tell your wife she's special, and she is the only one, right? You would tell her, oh, you're one of my favorites, right? Certain things you could say this to friends that you couldn't say to a wife, right? Like, you're one of my top 10 favorites. You couldn't say that to a wife, right? So you also have to know something about people. The one girl, the people came on a cruise ship. the parents flew the two children to Cape Town to get on a cruise ship. Now, does this mean they have money to spend? From Los Angeles to Cape Town? It's a lot, right? And they said that they have a home in Los Angeles, a second home in Laguna Beach. And even a cheap home there would be something like 40 million rand, a cheap one, right? So if you have a second home that's somewhere between 40 and 100 million rand, if someone like that, would you tell them if you're having trouble financially, you come to Krishna? Krishna says there's 4 kinds of people who surrender to me. One person is in need of money. Another person's in distress. Someone else is inquisitive. Someone else is actually in search of knowledge of the absolute truth. So it's like when say you're selling cars. I ask you, how many are in your family? Well, it's just me. Oh, then you need the big bus, right? Or if I haven't asked you how many are in your family, I say, you should take this little sports car. I say, yeah, but I take the soccer team to practice, right? So first you need to find out what's going on with them. And another thing, when someone comes to a temple, say for the first time, people always want mercy, give me blessings, they want to go to the Guru or older devotees. But where does Krishna say the blessings are in the Bhagavad Gita? One time I was looking through it to find a shortcut. So what chapter did I find it in? You guessed at the 18th, Krishna wanted me to look through them. And Krishna says, one who teaches the science to my devotees is the most dear, and never will be the one more dear. So teaching it to people is even more mercy than just learning it from someone or going to. Sometimes they expect, before we want to surrender to Prabhupada, some people now treat the Guru like he's the fairy godmother. You must have some stories here where the fairy godmother waves the wand and everything comes right. And that's what you have a Guru for, right? Is it? No. You expect him to solve all your material problems? No, you expect him to help you advance spiritually. So, you should identify if they're one of those kinds of people. There's also 4 kinds of people who don't surrender to Krishna. There's the Naradama who we just do what everyone else does. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad, if other people aren't doing it. It's like I remember I was an only child, so I'd listen to music, and I told my friend, listen to this one by the band called The Cream, which was very good, and Eric Clapton is the guitarist. And he said, but I haven't heard that on the radio, it's not popular. 9 months later, he's singing the song, Sunshine of Your Love. I said, but I played that for you 9 months ago. He said, yeah, but it wasn't popular then, no one was listening to it. So he's only going to sing it as long as everyone else is doing it, right? That was one of the problems I had with the Nazis. When the Nazis were mistreating people, all the people went along with it, right? Because they just do what everyone else is doing. And the Mudas just work hard like an ass. The Maya Prita Jnana has lots of knowledge, but it's all material knowledge. And the Asura is someone who's just out and out demoniac. So these people you avoid, you look for the other people, and you give the right message. If this person said they're on a cruise ship with their whole family, and they have a second home in a very expensive area, would you talk to them about not having enough material things? They said, oh, we are always happy. They said, because they have the things. But of course, it's to a limited degree. You ask them something, will you make investments, don't you? Well, of course. They said, are you happy just to get a certain amount, or are you always willing to get more? And he said, here is a sure investment. That the more you invest, the more you return, and the only risk is not doing it. And you're assured not to lose it, because Krishna says that Arjuna asks if somebody gives up this practice, do they perish? Like sometimes a small cloud breaks off from the big cloud, it just sort of disappears into nothing. Like if our devotion kind of wanes, it's just gone. It isn't really. So we need to understand who we're talking to. I heard when someone comes to the temple for the first time, what should you do with them? Give an idea? What you do? Welcome them. What else?
Try to be a friend with them.
Try to be a friend with them? You don't try to defeat them in a philosophical argument? Tell them they should sign an agreement that they will join this church and never go to another one again? Because we're interested in getting members, and if you get them to sign an agreement that they'll never go anywhere else, then they're a guaranteed member. Is that a good way? But sometimes, like, I tried this method, and Tupac says that in Laguna Beach, is that sometimes someone comes for the first time, you make a friend of them, just ask them about them. You don't even need to tell them much about philosophy. Just ask them about them and say, boy, it's sure good to meet with you. Why don't you come back next Sunday and we'll talk a little more? Because a good goal is to make the people feel like they want to come back. Right? That's why you have somebody welcome people. Because when they get there, they wonder, are they going to look at me like an outsider? Or are they going to lock the door and I can't get out? Right? Someplace, you can't get out and use the bathroom. Or if you're a little late, they point at your watch. Hey, you were late, right? Which we like people to come on time. You missed part of the lecture, but you notice we never do that. But of course, because other places do that, people are afraid that they're going to be locked out. They're going to be locked in. They're going to be criticized for not doing certain things, right? And so you welcome them and let them know that they can take as much or as little part as they want. And just making a friend with them. You don't have to convince them that you know more than they do. That's not the point. Because people want to know how much you care, more than care how much you know. And which ones you don't neglect, which are also your best customers. Say you see a man come with his wife and 3 children, look like they've been there before, and he says, I'm here with my brother who brought their 4 children. So now how many of them do they have? They have 11 of them. If they're neglected, they don't notice it. But if someone comes on their own, what does that mean? Tell me about someone that comes on their own. Someone comes to the temple for the first time on their own. What does that mean? Searching something, and what's different about that than someone that goes along with a friend? That they have a real. If I say, hey, I'm going to that temple, you want to come with me? No, why not? Or if you say, I'm kind of nervous going there, can you take me? And I take you along. But a person that goes on their own it really wants to find out. He's not going to wait for somebody to take him, right? It's like if I say we're giving away kilos of gold, you say, well, I'll wait till my friend takes me, or you just show up by yourself. So that person, but if they are left alone, then they really feel alone, because everybody goes and meets with the people. And people also have these preconceived ideas. I told the one African person in Nairobi, I said, you should come to our temple. She goes, yes, but if I go there, you'll be speaking in tribal language, and I won't understand. Because in those places, people get together and speak in their tribal languages, and she's afraid that'll happen there, and she'll get left out. I said, oh, no. I said, we only speak English in America. We don't have tribal areas. She goes, yes, you do have tribal areas. I said, no. She goes, I'll prove it to you. She pulls out a map. She says, California tribal area, Oregon tribal area, Washington tribal area, Nevada, Arizona, Texas. See? Now they aren't really, but if they're used to having tribal areas, they figure that's what that must be, right? People get mixed up with the things like that. They get customs mixed up. It's like Donald Trump talked about the country Namibia. Can you find Namibia on a map? Can you?
No.
Why not? What's that? Namibia. Where is Namibia? What's that? There is a Namibia. We're not talking about Namibia. And there is a Zambia, but there's no Namibia. So it must be you got Namibia, you got it mixed up. But there is Namibia and there is a Zambia, but there is no Namibia. Don't bother to look for it. Do it. Ask Google. It's funny that one friend says he was out with his wife in the field, and she said, "Boy, this would be an ideal place to bury someone. And the Google said, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. So sometimes artificial intelligence oversteps its bound. I was giving a class about the Prabhupada diary, and it was talking about life comes from life versus life comes from chemicals. And the computer started to comment, life comes from life versus life comes from chemicals. There are controversial theories on this. So we have to remember that first it's good to listen to people. Say I'm talking to you, pontificating is like the Pope rather than sharing ideas, telling you all this philosophy. And then I stop and you look at me and you say, je suis désolé, je ne peux pas parler en anglais, right? So maybe I should find out if you speak English before I rent to you a whole long tirade of things, isn't it? So it's good to find out something about people. Let them know you have their own self-interest at heart. And that's what's good about, we need to have things like one-off festivals, meaning like Rath Yatra, John Mastami. You come, it's only on this special day. So does that mean we should only have special days? So then we should have like a Sunday, and you have it every Sunday, but you only have that. So you have both. One is every Sunday. I'll come some Sunday, but not this one. Right? But the other festivals, if you missed it, you missed it. So it's good to have both things to bring people to. And to let people know about these things. Quite often they're there on a newsletter, or they're announced in a group, but they may not be in the group, or they may not have checked it out. Email's not perfect. No company admits it, but sometimes they lose emails, and sometimes people don't get the email saying when there's a special program. Sometimes randomly it just doesn't go to certain people. No company will admit that. Oh, it must be the other company. They never like to admit that. So to let people know about things. So the main thing is to have people's interest at heart. And where a good leader can be is like Tukarama Laguna Beach is very good, because he knows when to take things to a committee to discuss and when to make a decision on your own. What's bad is when you get this mixed up. When you make decisions, like when they're going to do the festival for the, now remember I'm speaking on Sunday, they're going to do a festival for the 50-year anniversary of Prabhupada and 40-year of the temple opening. They have a committee that's discussing that, right? Whereas if you're going to have a dinner at your house, you probably don't have to take it to a whole committee, right? You just invite a few friends. So you need to know what things go between the committees and what things go. Like for instance, if you were thinking about changing the time of the Namhata, that's a good thing to discuss with the whole group, right? Because maybe the group would like to come on the morning of Saturday at 11 o'clock. Maybe they're busy on Saturdays. Maybe the group would like to come earlier, but maybe most of them are working earlier, right? So you have to know when to take things to a group and when to make the choices on your own. Because it depends what the service is at the time. And Prabhupada says that as far as like training the servant leaders, the next people, because Prabhupada says it's one kind of intelligence to do something. It's another kind of intelligence to figure out how other people can do it, and you can go on to do something else. So sometimes they think the temple just runs on automatic. Somebody doesn't have to yell and scream at people to come do the artis. But to a certain degree that's good, because do you want people to come on their own? Isn't it? What's hard for a leader is if people don't show up to do artiques and they have to find someone else, then they're afraid it's going to keep happening. And that puts stress on the people in that position. So when meeting people, sometimes Krishna gives us clues. People are saying, you're at the market and they're looking at the vegetables. Oh, I like vegetables too. In fact, I'm a vegetarian, are you? And they say, oh no, I only eat pigs and beef, right? Or something like, there's certain things that you can drop with people to see if they have certain interests. I say, I've been to India a few times. You've somebody something, ask some leading questions to see if people are so the Christians say they have a thing that people are going to heaven. Their name is supposed to be in the book of life. So ask very nicely, oh, are you going to heaven and your name is in the book of life? Does your name appear in the book of life, or are you going to hell? They actually say that. Right on the street, they talk to someone and say, does your name appear in the book of life? Otherwise you're going to burn in the fires of hell forever. Now does that fit where Prabhupada says go in like a needle and come out like a plow? Sounds like you're trying to go in like a plow, right? Is that the kind of thing that it sounds more like it's geared to start an argument? Does your name appear in the book of life, or are you going to burn in the fires of hell forever? That's the first. Is that the first thing you would ask somebody? No. So that's the thing in dealing with people, is that we have their best interests at heart. And you invite people to come along to the Namahatas. You ask people, oh, what area are you in? Some areas, what they do here, it seems like it's a feast. There isn't as many new people. Are you? Most temples in India, they ask anybody here new. And they say, yes, I'm from Reservoir Hills, yes, I'm from Marina Park, yes, I'm from Burbank. And then they take someone from those areas and come over and meet you, and there'll be a temporary counsel. Because a spiritual master you take for life, but someone can counsel you now, and you can pick someone else later. But then they guide you and tell you a little bit about the temple, because sometimes people are maybe ready to talk to you if you ask them, but sometimes they're embarrassed. So it's good to volunteer to people that, hey, if you share something with me, don't worry, I'll make it twice as bad as it is and put it on Facebook, right? Is that what you would do? No. We have to remember, if we really have something bad to say to someone, I tell you this and this and this. You know, why are you saying that? Well, at least I'm telling your face. I'm not talking behind your back like everyone else is. You have to appreciate that. You go, I guess I do, right? So even if you have to tell someone, you like, took around the temple because he's a big guy, right? And way back, his wife was serving prasadam, and some new person pulled on his wife's sari and says, I want more of that. And he said, excuse me. He comes outside and says, I know you don't know better, but we don't pull on the women's clothing, and that's my wife's sari. So do not pull on her clothing. I took you outside so nobody else would see it, but just, as long as you don't do it again, it'll be fine, right? So you take them aside and do that. Sometimes you have to be careful to do that. Take someone aside and ask something nicely first. Explain to them, I'm sure you don't know better. Because sometimes someone comes in for the first time, like Prabhupada said in the beginning, you don't introduce all these rules to people. If some guy comes from the college with his girlfriend, don't start talking about illicit sex with them. Right? Don't talk to the college student about how we don't take intoxication. Prabhupada said in the beginning, you don't introduce the things. You just get someone interested. It's just like if you're selling books, like any other product, the first thing is you create the value. If there's high value, it's like Vaisheshika talks about the books, and the people give $20, which is what? $20 is what, 400 rand? And apologize for not having more. Because if you can convince people that the value is more than the cost, they'll take it. Like if I tell you, I want 100 rand for something right now, you give it to me. Give it to me now. But if I show you, I'm selling 200 rand notes for 100 rand. Now is it easy? Because what have I proven? What I'm selling is more valuable than what you have to pay for it. So that's what you have to show in sales, that the value exceeds the cost. And so in the same way with Krishna Consciousness, you have to establish the value before these are all the things you have to do, and these are the things you can't do. You let them know, like Prabhupada says, come and try it with us first. Just watch it the first time. That's why you see at the temple, people can stand in the foyer and watch from there. They can go and they can sit along the benches. You like people to come sit up front, but if they sit in the bench in the back, that's kind of okay. And so you want to make people feel comfortable where they're at, and then later get them to participate. Introduce them to a few other people so that they have a few friends. Because if somebody came there and they met 3-4 people, because they're coming wondering what are all these people thinking. It was like you go into a bar, say some girl goes into a bar, some guys don't want to talk to her, and the ones that want to talk to her are even worse, right? And then they go outside the bar and they do public service hijackings. Because if the person is drunk, they can either get arrested or get in an accident. So the thieves think that it's a public service to hijack their car. I doubt if they really think that. They just think it's easier to push someone over and take their keys if they're drunk, right? Because they're struggling to get it in the car. That's easy to just take them away, right? They don't rush to the car, open it, and they're gone, right? So, but I doubt if they really consider it a public service hijacking. So this is the thing, we think of people, if they come to Namahata or temple the first time, you spend time with them. And I encourage people at the Sunday feast. In Phoenix now, they're serving it where the people sit at the table and they bring it around, which people stay longer for that. Because if I brought guests and I'm talking with them before the prasadam comes, the talking was the primary thing, right? Then the prasadam comes. When they're finished, they don't feel like they have to get up and leave. Some people sit down, feast, they eat so fast and they're gone. I think, what, are we scheduled to be mom today or something? Then to eat and get home, it's the feast is, the first is served at 1, it's not going to get dark yet. But they should spend some time talking to other people, because maybe they can help someone in Krishna consciousness. Maybe they have friends that are in Krishna consciousness. You have a few hundred people there. It's easier to find like-minded people there than knock on doors. Because even in Durban, even like-minded people won't open the door for you, will they? Because they're geared to not wanting to open the door. They've already set their mood for that. So even if people see new friends and knock on the door, they're already in the mood of not wanting to open that door. So we take advantage of the public gatherings and meet with people and influence them, and we make friends of people who are already coming and people who come for the first time. Keep up with it. They have these things called telephones, and it works both ways. They can call you and you can call them. So you take their number and you give them theirs, and you try to keep up with them. You don't call them 50 times, right? Because the person that called 20 times isn't necessarily 10 times as good as the person that only called twice. You don't just keep calling, but you stay in touch with people. It makes them feel wanted, and that's the main thing, to make people feel like they want to come there. There's something of value there. So you create the value before you give the cost. Any questions or comments? Is that enough? Did that just scratch the surface?
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you.
Can you use some of those ideas? Or you'll just throw it all out? I remember in '72 I gave a talk in Peter Maritzburg. They said, these Americans are so industrious, they presented their talk as if it was industry. And you may like some of the things that they said, and you may not like others. So accept the part you like and reject the part you don't like. Thanks. Is that good?
Thank you so much.